I mean, basically, the first thing to discuss is this dangerously naive notion that the biggest stage in global capitalism will be turned over to a performance that in any way had some kind of subversive character to it. I mean, we're not talking about a contested space. We're talking about a space controlled by Pepsi and the National Football League. So my reaction to the critique or the interpretation that there was something subversive, oppositional to that performance was one of disbelief. I saw the performance here in Cali, Colombia, and for the life of me, I did not see anything that struck me as even mildly oppositional. In fact, even the imagery that people referred to was something that didn't even occur to me at first. I had to watch the performance again. So this idea that Beyonce was in fact making a profound oppositional political statement, I find to be quite strange.
I think it's a joke. Anytime that you have to put video with the Super Bowl and pictures of dancers holding up their hands and fists and and analyzing one thing, and you can't hear lyrics or read lyrics. Nobody watched the Super Bowl and got any energy from Beyonce other than Uptown Funk, You Funk Me Up, whatever. That was it, and everything came afterwards when you piece the video together with the pictures and the storyline and what she said. So it's a roar, it's about nothing, and that's why the lyrics said it all. Anytime when you have to talk about effing your man and taking him to Red Lobster, there's no revolution in that.
The analysis is that these individuals, the Sanders campaign and Coates, are packaged as being cutting edge, as representing something that's potentially oppositional and progressive. And I make the argument that they are in fact fully incorporated into the grand narrative of the capitalist, of the liberal capitalist state. That even the call for reparations in the way in which it is framed and understood by many is a quite conservative call, especially if you understand that that call is being made suggesting that the existing political system will be the system to respond to that call and, in fact, to implement reparations. And Bernie Sanders, while he talks about some very important topics in terms of the national economic situation, his foreign policies are clearly pro-imperialist, pro-empire, and consequently quite conservative. So while they are packaged as being oppositional, they are fully incorporated into the grand conservative narrative. So Beyonce is just another one of those examples of how the system, how this capitalist state and this culture are able to reinscribe meaning, to incorporate oppositional symbols and to depoliticize those symbols and to give them a meaning that is quite supportive of the existing state of the status quo. A very powerful weapon that it employs quite frequently and very effectively.
But that's what I mean. Well, she's got more publicity out of this, and it was about her tour. And I think maybe it shows how drained and how tired we are when we think this even has anything to do with revolution.
Well, I mean, I separate the video from the actual performance at the Super Bowl, and in the video, of course, there are those images that may be new to many people, and so I don't have any necessarily negative reaction to that. I do take, I do question, how radical that really was. I mean, positive statements of blackness or what is defined as blackness is important. Her connecting up to her cultural foundations is important. It's important to deal with some of the questions around the black aesthetic. That's fine. But to read more into it than what's there, to me, is what I find a little troubling, because there, we understand the power of culture, and we see that these notions of black pride, while important, can be fully incorporated into the grand narrative of the U.S. state. We saw that on plenty of occasions in the past. In particular, we look back at the so-called Black Power movement, and we saw how that was incorporated by the state and was translated and transformed into a call for black capitalism. We see the messages of Beyonce in her video. She talks about and raises up in terms of putting value on being a black Bill Gates in the making. Uh, Clearly, a reference to the hegemony and the importance of a black of a capitalist value framework. She talks about if you are oppressed or exploited or whatever, that you can seek revenge through accumulating your paper, meaning money. So those those messages are quite conservative. In fact, I would argue they enhance hegemony in the U.S. So therefore, there's nothing oppositional in those messages. In fact, they are quite accommodationist.
No, put it in a song. Form. It's not in your song. There's touches of it in your video. Write about it. Talk about it. I had this debate with this 48-year-old brother that called her the modern day Nina Simone. And I said, study up on Nina Simone. Don't tell me that mess. Because Nina Simone lived it, wrote it. At the same debate with James Brown, I said, say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. That changed the way people thought about being colored. At least I know when I was a kid, I didn't want to be black until I heard that song.
No, I think that's a very interesting observation, Jared. I think the optics of this is probably going to be problematic, and the age of those of us who are providing some degree of critical analysis. This conversation and the whole Beyonce phenomenon is in fact framed as some kind of generational contradiction. But for me, and it may be, but I think it's more than that. I think it's a contradiction in terms of generations, but it is a cover for something much deeper, and that is a class contradiction, a politics that represents a certain kind of class, a perspective, a kind of world perspective, a value system that needs to be interrogated. Now, the fact that it's taking place with three older brothers is something that we could talk about. But part of what is happening with this so-called progressive movement in the U.S. is a kind of left McCarthyism. That is that one is able to avoid critique and criticism based on one's professed identity, and that to me is undermining our ability to get at the root of some of the contradictions, to be able to clearly interrogate what may be a faulty strategy and tactics, to expose the theoretical lack of development among those of us who are trying to push our movement forward. So, we've got to unpackage this stuff because we're up against a state that is in a culture that is profoundly powerful. And we've got to be able to understand that if the objective is to develop critical consciousness, critical oppositional consciousness, any of these kinds of cultural phenomenon that undermines that objective, we've got to expose and expose it to ruthless criticism. But see, I don't even have an issue with Beyonce, Jared, necessarily. Beyonce is what she is. She is a bourgeois artist in a bourgeois system. She's about making that paper. The issue I have is with these individuals who call themselves radicals or revolutionaries who are unable to deconstruct the obvious class politics that's involved here, who read into these simplistic cultural expressions some kind of oppositional character. You know, the influences of this postmodernist gibberish that can't separate style from substance. So I have an issue with these phonies because they're the ones that are reading into the stuff that, I mean, elements that really aren't there. And as the brother just said, there are many young people who recognize that there was nothing really politically profound in the performance or even in the video. Now we may be starved for these images people claim, which I don't really accept, but you know, there's been plenty of positive images that we have been exposed to. What we need to have is a clearer understanding of what these things mean politically and what we are up against at this current conjuncture in history. We are facing a serious situation, and these kinds of diversionary conversations and diversionary politics only strengthen the ability of the state to continue to oppress us.
Just people have to start engaging our youth and telling the whole story. It gets lost out there, man. I try to talk to young people as much as I can, man, because a lot of them don't get it, and it's our generation's fault for that.
I would just say that we need to be reminded of something that Kwame Ture used to always say, that the capitalist system can always offer individual solutions for what is a collective problem. Beyonce may be a powerful, rich individual, but for our people, we are oppressed and exploited by a system that needs to be overturned.